Hi guys, and welcome back to another IBRACORP video. Thanks for stepping into the portal today and joining us for another video. Today I've got a little bit of a special one for you, and it's going to be smack bang in the middle of our week, so a little bit of a special one just to get it out there for you, and hopefully you guys enjoy it, because I know over the weekend we didn't cover a specific topic, and I recently just had to revisit this topic with one of our Discord members and help them get it installed, so I thought this is a perfect opportunity now to make the video on it. I've had it running for quite some time, and we're covering PWM. So PWM, it's an open source password self-service application for LDAP directories. If you guys have already watched my FreeIPA video, our Authelia videos, our organizer videos, anything that basically runs off that FreeIPA LDAP, this comes in from a top level to help users manage their own accounts and manage their own passwords, manage their own information and data. This allows you to basically palm off a lot of that responsibility onto the users themselves. And the beauty of it is, it's not just for FreeIPA, it's for any LDAP directory basically. So if you use Active Directory, use any other sort of directory, Open LDAP, this solution will work for you as well. The video I'm covering today will cover getting it configured for FreeIPA. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because A, we've already covered FreeIPA before, and B, there's actually not that much documentation. So a lot of the stuff that I had to do for this, I figured out on my own, and it took me quite some time. But for you guys today, I'm going to make it really easy, and we're just going to basically configure it with all the settings I have straight off the bat. So you just have to follow me one step at a time, and we'll be able to get it going. It has so many features and so many things that you can do with it. So our aim today is to get it installed and get it running for you so that you can sit down and have a play with it, and at least it'll be working. If you guys really enjoy it, in the future I can look at doing an in-depth video where we go through a lot of its other features together in a little bit more detail. So if that sounds interesting, you want to go have a play, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So we're in the official GitHub for PWM, and if I just scroll to the top here, it's pwm-project/PWM. And let me tell you guys, it's an awesome application. These guys have done so much work here, it's crazy. It covers so many different aspects of managing users and your organization, and I personally believe it will be quite helpful to you. Now, if you're just looking for just a password reset, literally nothing else, you know, Authelia does already do that, to be honest with you. But if you want to expand into something a little bit more of a portal sort of thing where users go in, they can manage more than just their password. They can update their email addresses or any other details that you specify they can update. Yeah, they can do that in this. So having a quick skim over here, here's their features, and look, the list goes on really, but I'll highlight a couple. So over 400 configurable settings, display values for every user-facing text string. It's got plenty of different languages. It's polished. You've got different methodologies for managing forgotten passwords. You have a help desk password reset and intruder lockout clearing. So it's actually quite secure. It has an automatic timeout as well. So, you know, if the person leaves the screen for 10 minutes, it just locks them out straight away. That's by default, but you can change that. Guest user registration, new user registration, and account creation. So a lot of people asked me about this with the FreeIPA stuff. And to be honest, even personally, I was setting up their accounts manually in FreeIPA, and I hadn't spent the time to get this working in the PWM yet. And I'm sure it wouldn't be that difficult. So that's something a lot of people ask me about, and this will allow you to do that. So you can have people go in and register and create their account, and it will write it over to FreeIPA for you, or whatever LDAP server you're using, Active Directory if that's the case. It's very customizable. We've got HTML, CSS, you know, it's all customizable in that sense. You've got failover, so you can set up multiple LDAP servers. It's pretty good at being mobile friendly. I've opened it up on the phone, and that's what I used in the screenshot for our community post today. And it actually came out quite nice, so it doesn't look too bad on the phone. And here's your directory support. So you've got Open LDAP, Microsoft Active Directory, NetIQ, Directory 389, and just generic, you know, which as you can see, it doesn't specifically say FreeIPA, which is what made it so difficult for me when I had to set it up. But thanks to this video today, hopefully it's not going to be that hard for you. And look, there's a whole bunch of information here, guys, but I'm focused on getting this out to you, and I've already got the information I need. So let's not stuff around. Let's just get into the install, and I'll get you to have a look, and you can have a look for yourself We'll see whether you like it. So step number one, let's jump into our Unraid server. Okay, so we're in our Unraid server, Pumba, and as you can see, there's not much going on here. This is a nice clean server. I will note that my FreeIPA server actually runs off Zeus, my main server, so I'm not going to go and set up a whole VM for that. We're just going to configure PWM here so that it reads from that server, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue anyway. Okay, first thing we'll do is head over to the App Store as usual, and we'll look up PWM. And here's the template that I made for everyone. So we'll go ahead and click to install, and there'll be a whole bunch of information. I'll flick that back to basic view there. So the first thing we'll do is we'll put it on our custom Docker network like we normally like to do. And you'll see a couple of fields here. So one, I've added the directory for app data that was missing up until yesterday. So I fixed that up. I've also added this other flag here, which can cause issues on the first start where permissions issues means it's unable to actually access the file that it needs. I tried various things, Hawks tried various things with me as well, and we just couldn't get the permissions sorted. So this is a way that is a workaround for that. However, after your first install, I'd probably recommend that you remove this parameter and see if it still works for you fine. If it does, you don't need to leave it there. Otherwise, you can just leave it there, but that's at your discretion. I will note that it is not the best idea in terms of security from what I've read. So see how that goes for you. So there's not much here to configure really. The rest of it's actually in the application. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click apply, and we'll just wait for that to install pretty much. And while we're waiting, we'll just have a bit of a chat. You know, look, it's been an interesting week. I've been looking forward to getting this one out to you guys. My next video, I think you guys will also really enjoy. And I'm trying to do all these topics that the team has asked me for and the community has asked me for a while before I take a couple of weeks leave. So hopefully this helps you guys get on your feet and try out some new things with your LDAP server. Because if you're like me, you probably started the LDAP server and it just sat there for ages before you actually did anything with it. I think the other thing is a lot of people think, well, I don't really need an LDAP server. That seems a bit full on. It is, okay? It is. But if you have time to kill and you want to learn and understand it, it can actually be quite beneficial. You know, the more things that have LDAP support, you have one single source of truth. So you can just basically plug it into your server or connect it to your server and let it read all the users there, and you don't have to set users up separately. So with that, we'll click done and we'll head back to Docker. So here's our container. We can see we've got the green play button. We'll click on the logs. Just have a quick read there. And now that actually looks good. All right, as you can see, it's still starting up doing a couple of things. So we've got the PWM going. Before we start configuring that, there's a couple of things that we'll need to set up first. So we'll go into MariaDB. So we'll start that up. Start up your adminer if you're using adminer to manage it. Okay, so we're in our adminer and we're going to access our SQL database. So we've put all our details in. Go ahead and log in. And the first thing we're going to do is create a database. So click on create database and we'll just call this PWM. Leave the collation and click save. Go ahead to privileges, create user, and we're going to create one called PWM again. We'll set the password, click all privileges, scroll down to the bottom and click save. So now what we've done is we've created a database here. If I go back to it, we've got PWM, it's empty at the moment, and then we have a PWM as the user. That's perfect. So we have a database ready to go. So that's pretty much all you need to do on this side. Our database is ready. And I'll explain to you why we have the database. So you can do this without a database. And what it means is that you would need to update your schema in FreeIPA. Now, personally, I have no idea how to do that. I tried my best to find out how to do that. It's not very easy, or I couldn't guarantee that it wouldn't really impact my server. So I wanted a way that I didn't have to modify the existing schema in my FreeIPA server. So the alternative method that PWM allows is to have a separate database where it writes the changes there and doesn't need you to change your schema in FreeIPA. And that's worked perfectly fine. So I'm going to leave it like that, and that's how I'm going to show you today. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to do this part. Now, the other part that I recommend that you do before we start configuring PWM is to create a test account in your server. So in your FreeIPA server, create a test account. You don't have to assign it to any particular groups. It just has to be on the level of a normal user. As you can see, this is mine, for example, just for reference. I haven't really changed anything. That'll work just fine. If you're not aware, guys, as an administrator, when you reset someone's password or set a password for someone, by default behavior, the password will immediately expire. The reason it does that, and its intention, is because you shouldn't know the person's password. Even though you're an administrator, you should never know the person's password. So what it does is it automatically expires it, and then it expects the person to log into FreeIPA and set a new one. So the reason why I'm telling you is, if you go ahead and set a password here, check the password expiration. You'll probably notice that it's already expired straight away. Log out of FreeIPA and then log in using that user's details that you've just set, and it should ask you to create a new password. And then that new password will meet the password criteria that you've configured in FreeIPA or your password policy. So just something to check there. It's a little side note. It's easy to miss, but it will hold you up for a long time later because you'll be wondering why the user account's not working. So make sure you just check the password there. So we've created a database. We've created a test user in FreeIPA. We're pretty much ready to start configuring and getting going. Come back to Unraid here and left click and go to Web UI. All right, guys, if you just went through what I went through and you saw constant redirects happening, all I had to do was just backspace all of this and try to hit the URL directly, and then it let me come to this page. Here we are, we're on the first setup page. All right, pretty straightforward. We click next. It'll also tell you whether it's picked up if there's an existing configuration that hasn't been finished. In our case, we don't have one yet, so go ahead and click next. Now here's where a lot of people get tripped up. It has a configuration guide. Now, when I first started, I tried to use that because it's like a wizard. It's meant to make things easier. And I'm just rubbing my eyes now, trying to reassure you that that is not the case. It might be easier if you're completely fresh, but since I've got all the settings to show you that need to be changed, we don't even need to worry about that, okay? So we'll just go into manual configuration. And there's two reasons for that. One, it'll let you keep working on the configuration and testing at the same time. Whereas with the guide, if you follow that all the way to the end, it closes the PWM out of config mode. It means it can't be edited, but then you can't log into it if it doesn't work, if you haven't set something up correctly. So it kind of bricks you in a way. So we've gone manual, and as you can see, it's asking us to set up configuration password. So this is a password you'll need anytime you want to change any settings in PWM. It doesn't reach to anywhere else, it's just in PWM alone. So I'll go ahead and do that. Done, and we'll click store. Give it a second, you'll notice that it's loading. And as you can see here, we are in configuration mode. This mode allows updating the configuration without authenticating to an LDAP directory first. End user functionality is not available in this mode. So you can't have people come in and log in and try it out and things like that until you've closed it out of this mode. After you verify everything, you can use the configuration manager to jump out of that mode. And then after restricting, the configuration will still be changed, but will require LDAP authentication first, which is what I was saying before. So we'll go ahead and click OK. So as you can see, it takes us to this login page. Now this doesn't mean anything because we don't have an LDAP server set up yet to make this work. So what you'll need to do is go to the configuration editor. We're going to type in the password that we just created and click sign in. Now, this is pretty much the settings. Once you have your way around things, you'll understand this so much quicker. But to start off with, here's what we're going to do to change stuff so that we can at least get going with our LDAP config, right? So follow with me here. First thing we're going to go to is settings, default settings. LDAP vendor default strings. We're going to change that to open LDAP. Click OK. Storage default settings. Now also, by the way, guys, like I said, I'm showing you for FreeIPA. If you're using Microsoft Active Directory or anything else, you'll need to change this as you go to whatever's relevant. And unfortunately, I don't know what you're using, so I probably can't help you with specifics. Storage default settings. So with that one, we're going to go to remote database. Okay, go ahead and click OK. So this is what I was saying before. And if you just click the little question marks here, they give you a nice description of what the setting is. So I highly recommend you do that as you're going along, just to try and understand what it is it's changing or why it does things a certain way. So as you can see here, you can change this, and we've got remote database, LDAP, or local DB. Now local DB is meant for testing, so I would not use it, okay? Use a remote database, which is what we've set up by having a MariaDB. I have a video just for that. It's nice and short and sweet if you don't know how to set up a Maria database with AdMiner, which is what we did at the start of the video. With that, then we go to LDAP, LDAP directories, go to default, and go to connection. LDAP URL, as you can see, it wants this sort of format. So with our FreeIPA server, we'll be actually hitting a non-HTTPS. So
it'll look like something like this, 389, and your server IP address should go in here. So we'll go 192.168.1.150 for me, and click OK. So that's your FreeIPA server's HTTP port 389. If you're using HTTPS, that instead would be 636. LDAP certificates we don't need. Now, you'll notice here with the proxy user, if we click add value, you can actually navigate through your FreeIPA server. So that's what that's letting us do here. So for this user, what we want is a admin user. We go to accounts, we go to users, and then we go to admin. So as you can see, we've got admin, users, accounts, and then the domain that we're on. The proxy password, pretty straightforward. So it needs to be the admin password that you created in FreeIPA, whatever that is, and go ahead and store the password there. Contextless login routes. So this one here, we just want the top level of where our users live in the IPA server. So go ahead and click add value, go to accounts, go to users, just click on users just like that. And so it should show users, accounts, and then your domain. The LDAP test user, which is what we set up earlier. So go ahead and click add value. We go to accounts, then we go to users, and then we scroll down and click on test. There you go. Here's our test user, done. And then once you're done, at the very top, we'll just go test LDAP profile. Now that's fine, you're gonna get this warning, and the reason is because we haven't configured another setting yet. So go ahead to login setup, username search filter. So with the username search filter, we're gonna change that, and we're gonna put in this here. So you can copy it exactly as mine. Pretty much POSIX account is the part that we're changing. Click OK. User attributes, we're also gonna change as well. So if we go back to connection here and test it again, we're still gonna get this warning, okay? So we've set up the filter, but we need to set up all this stuff as well. So user attributes, the attribute to use for username, that needs to be UID. Click OK. The LDAP good attribute, that needs to be IPA unique ID. The LDAP naming attribute is again going to be UID. In this area, that's pretty much done. So we'll drop down to LDAP settings, and under global object user class, we're going to change that to POSIX account, like that. Make sure you're getting the capital A there as well, and click OK. We don't need the other one, so you can just remove that one. So POSIX account is all we want there. And if we just click save here in the very top right, we can save these settings that we've changed so far. So go ahead and do that. And we'll jump back in the configuration editor, and going back to LDAP profile, we'll check it again. And we can see here, error DB unavailable. So we've actually passed that other error that we were getting, and we're getting this one, which means we haven't got to that yet. So that's fine. The next thing we're gonna do, down to modules and authenticated. Go to administration and administrator permission. Go ahead and click add group. We'll get rid of this first one. We just want add group. So the LDAP profile, we'll just call that default. And then the group DN, we want that going to our admin groups. So if we go to accounts, groups, admins, so we have CN, admin, CN groups, then accounts, IBRACORP IO. Then in setting modules, authenticated, change password, profiles, default, and we have require current password during change. We can say only when not expired. The reason is if the password is expired, they may not know what that current password is, so it just lets us make it a bit easier on the person. Then under guest registration here, the creation context. So if we just click on this, we'll get out, go to accounts, groups, and then IPA users. That will allow guest registrations to go there. Now, currently I'm going to leave it disabled. That's something that we might go in an in-depth video for at a later time, but I'm just helping you get all these basic settings in the right place. As you can see, you've got one-time password, security questions, help desk. You've got a whole bunch of other stuff in there for authenticated, and you've got there for public as well. So you've got new user registrations and things like that. I'm not going to cover those today because that stuff is really in depth, and we will cover it at a later time, guys, but just so you know that they are there and you can get to them when you need to. So the next thing we'll do is quickly jump into policies real quick, and I'll give you a look at that. So we've got our password policies here. So password policy profile match. This is pretty much where you will configure what your policy is, and it's really up to you how you want to go ahead with it. But just keep in mind that it may be different for you and how you want things to work. This default thing here, that's fine, that works without any issue, so we don't have to change that. So just go through the password policy and see what works for you and what you like. Remember to use the question marks here, that kind of helps you as well. And you can even pick stuff that's, you know,
they're not allowed to use their given name, for example, or their CN. Now CN, that doesn't apply for FreeIPA, so we would probably change that to something like UID. All right, we don't want them using their UID as their password. So jump into settings and go to database. Go to connection. And here, there's one step that I missed. I'll put the link down in the description so that you can download it, but there is a package that you will just simply download and then you'll upload it into this. So if I just go upload, so here it is here, the MySQL connector Java 5.1.49. Again, you might use a different version. I just know that this guarantees me to work. So, you know, at your own discretion. So we just want the .jar one and click open and then click upload. That loads that up in there. Beautiful, we're happy. So database class, we're then gonna go put this into the database class. So we've got com.mysql.jdbc.driver with a capital D there. For the database connection string, we've got jdbc :mysql : the IP address of your database server. So in this case, it's 101. The port 3306. So we've got a colon there between them. /PWM !use time zone capital T equals true and server time zone capital T equals UTC. Go ahead and click OK. Now that might be configurable to whatever you prefer. Like I said, this is what I found that just works for me. Use at your own discretion. Database username, pretty straightforward. Put in the database username we created at the start of the video there. And the password that we used. And click store password. The database vendor, go ahead and click other. Once you've done that, make sure we save up in the very top right. And it'll commit all the changes that we've made. We'll go back into the editor again. We've clicked test and we get the green signal, so that means all good. So at first I wasn't getting that and I just needed to check my password in the database. Sure enough, I was typing it in wrong. So now we've got the green light. We'll go ahead and click save, commit our changes. And guess what, guys? To get you started right off the bat, that's pretty much all you need to do. There are settings there for setting up your email servers and SMTP and things like that, which I highly recommend that you set up as well. Because it'll allow you to receive emails and users to receive emails for resetting their passwords. But let's go ahead into configuration manager, and this will tell us any issues that we might have. So beautiful, that's what we want to see. This is all green, which looks good for us. But as you can see, we've got this red here saying the site URL is not configured, and it tells you exactly where we need to configure it. So we'll go ahead and go to the configuration editor. And then under settings, application, here we go. So we did forget to do this part. So for our site URL, we're gonna go ahead and put in the external URL that we want people to be able to get to this with. So I've already set one up in Cloudflare and Nginx Proxy Manager, and I'm gonna call it portal.ibracorp.org. Click OK. So HTTPS, because on the external, it's gonna be secure, obviously. For the home URL, we'll pretty much put in the same address /private and click OK. This will just help you avoid those redirection issues that we had when we first started up. The logout URL is pretty much going to be the same. So if I just copy that, go to the logout URL and click OK. Now it's also worth noting, guys, you can change this. So if you don't want it to go back there, you can say, all right, when the person logs out, send them over to, you know, my homepage or something. Like they don't have to go to this portal. You can send them anywhere, which is the beauty of it. Idle timeout seconds. So by default, it's 5 minutes. I personally set that to 600, which is 10 minutes, but that's up to personal preference. You know, if you tend to just wait around while you're loading stuff and doing config, 5 minutes tends to go a little bit quick for me. So I'll click OK and save that. And I reckon we're looking pretty good now, guys. If we go ahead to the configuration manager, that looks good. Caution and config, that's okay. That's stuff that you can work out as time progresses. You know, the caution is saying that the connection to our LDAP server is non-secure, so we really don't want to be doing that. But that's how we've got it set up at the moment. The warning you're seeing here is because we're in configuration mode, like I said, so we can't test anything just yet. So now that we're getting all these green lights, LDAP's working, database is working, all good. One last check you can do is if you go to your database, as you can see, it started filling in stuff into our database, which is good news for us. So it all looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and restrict the configuration. Click OK. Oh, well, we must be authenticated with admin privileges apparently, which pretty sure we were. So what we'll do is we'll actually go back and we'll try to sign in here now. So sign in, and there we go. So I just used my LDAP credentials to sign in there. So you can see we've got this warning and saying we're in configuration mode. So go to the configuration manager, and now we can restrict it. So the beauty of that is it allows you to log in first with an authenticated account. So that proves that you can log in with your LDAP, and then it lets you close off the config mode. So if I go click OK, and we can just skip that. And there you go, guys. Congratulations. You finished setting it up. So this is what it looks like for an administrator. You've got administrative functions here. So if I click on that, you'll actually get a whole bunch of dashboards and statistics. And this is pretty helpful because it'll show you how many hits are hitting your LDAP server, how many people are trying to access it, any sort of intrusion alerts. You've got the health and checks on things as it goes as well. Your local database, which we haven't had to change anything in FreeIPA. You've got user activity, so I can see who's been logging in, any intruders that have been detected, and all the audit records. So look, I can even see the IP address of my computer trying to hit this account using what account as well. So it's pretty helpful, it's pretty cool. And one of the best things is if I go back to home here real quick, and there you go, guys. So we're on the external address. If you don't know how to reverse proxy an address, I've got plenty of videos on that. Watch our Nginx proxy manager video and our Cloudflare video. And basically we've set up a proxy called portal.ibracorp.org, and that's what we configured in the settings. So now it's accessible from the outside world. So guys, that's PWM. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to give us a thumbs up and a subscription if you haven't already. I really hope you guys find it helpful. I know I sure did, and I know some of my members in the Discord do as well. Feel free to jump in there anytime you want, and thank you very much for your support. Stay tuned, and we hope to see you again in the next IBRACORP video.